Good evening. I am Anitra Steele, the chair of the Forums Committee, and we want to welcome you to our forum for House Districts 15, 16, 17, and 18. Communities in these districts include Gladstone, Kansas City, and North Kansas City. This forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Kansas City, Jackson, Clay, and Platte counties. The forum will be recorded and available on the League's webpage, lwvkc.org, and on YouTube. The League of Women Voters is a trusted grassroots, nonpartisan organization whose members do the hands-on work to safeguard democracy. While we neither endorse or oppose candidates or political parties, we are directly involved in sharing the important issues. Our mission is to empower voters and defend democracy. We envision a democracy where every citizen has the knowledge, the right, the desire, and the confidence to participate. Our membership is open to everyone. I'd like for you to know the other League members volunteering with me. Cindy Schmidt is our timekeeper, and our Zoom is monitored by Crystal Kemp. The public has sent in questions via the League's website, lwvkc.org. Tonight, we welcome our moderator, former City Council member and Mayor Pro Tem, Joanne Collins. Welcome, Joanne, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. I'm delighted to join you for the Candidates Forum for House Districts 15, 16, 17, and 18. Tonight, we'll hear from the candidates running for the opportunity to represent their district voters. The Missouri state representatives and senators work alongside the governor to create laws and establish a state budget. Responsibilities include passing bills on public policy matters, setting levels for state spending, raising and lowering taxes, and voting to uphold or override gubernatorial vetoes. State representatives are limited to 4 two-year terms. State senators are limited to 2 four-year terms. Forums last approximately 90 minutes. I'll ask each candidate the same question, selected from those submitted by the public. The order of candidate responses has been determined by random rotation. Each candidate will be given 90 seconds to respond to each question and 2 minutes for our closing statement. All the candidates running for these districts have been invited. We welcome the candidates participating in tonight's forum. Candidates, please answer the question asked and stick to the topic. There will be no rebuttals, but you may go back to an issue during your 2 minutes closing remarks. Let us begin. Gloria Young, please introduce yourself and tell us your education and background, and most importantly, why you are running for the state legislature.
All right. I would like to begin by thanking the League of Women Voters for providing this opportunity for candidates to introduce themselves and for creating this resource for the voters. My name is Gloria Young, and I am running for state representative in the 16th district. My educational background is in anthropology with my degree from the University of Kansas. I am an applied anthropologist, and applied anthropology is using anthropological study and theory to develop solutions for practical problems, and theory to develop solutions for more complex issues. I use anthropological studies to inform my ongoing efforts to address critical community needs. I believe very strongly in human potential when we utilize our greatest strength, which is our ability to work collectively and plan ahead and utilize diverse knowledge and skills to develop responses to the issues that we encounter. My decision to run for office is based very strongly in my observation that a supermajority does not lend itself well to effective collaboration, and that diverse knowledge, perspectives, and skills, let alone research, are not being utilized fully to inform effective public policy.
Thank you. Kenneth Jameson. Please introduce yourself. Tell us your education and background, and most importantly, why you are running for the state legislature.
Yes, thank you, Councilwoman, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for providing this forum and the opportunity for the candidates to speak. And thanks for my fellow candidates for attending this forum. My name is Ken Jameson. I'm a Democrat running for state representative in District 15. That's primarily Gladstone, Oakview, and Kansas City North. I'm a husband and stepfather to a 5-year-old who's upstairs right now with his mom and my wife, and hopefully he doesn't come down here screaming and interrupt the forum, but we'll see. We'll see if that happens or not. I'm currently an attorney, and I have my own law firm. It's located in Liberty, Missouri. And before I became an attorney, I served on 4 years on active duty in the United States Marine Corps. I attained the rank of captain. I served 1 tour in Afghanistan, and in the Marine Corps, I served as a platoon commander, which means I led about 45, 50 Marines at any given time. That was my primary job. My second job in the Marine Corps was communications, made sure Marines from point A and point B could talk through radios, telephones, and computers. I was raised in the district. I went to Meadowbrook Elementary School, Antioch Middle School, and Oak Park High School. Went to Mizzou for law school and undergrad, and I'd be honored for everybody's support.
Thank you. Shirley Maida, please introduce yourself. Tell us your education and background, and most importantly, why you are running for the state legislature.
Hi, Shirley Mata, running for Missouri House District 17. I have some college, but I was young and decided I wanted to go out and enjoy life. So I ended up getting married early. My husband joined the Army, lived in Okinawa for 5 years, came back here. Later, a divorce happened, and so I ended up at Ford Motor Company because of the insurances. And I just retired from Ford after 28 years and 8 months. And I have been a UAW member for 29 years. And I'm running for office because I would like to see working class people be represented, because I did not feel represented as a worker.
Thank you. Bill Allen, please introduce yourself. Tell us your education and background, and most importantly, why you are running for the state legislature.
I will, and thank you so much. I really appreciate the League of Women Voters for putting this together. Thanks for the forum. Thanks for the candidates for taking the time to do this. And all those watching, appreciate your time and your concern over democracy. I'm probably the least likely person to ever run for office. I can't imagine there would be somebody more unlikely than me. I grew up in poverty in Kansas City, Kansas. I spent a couple of years in an orphanage, and there was virtually no hope for me as a young person. But when I graduated from high school, I decided the military was the way to go. And I spent nearly 27 years on active duty in the U.S. Navy, both enlisted and as an officer, retiring at the rank of lieutenant commander. In the Navy, I had thousands of people under my command, and I learned a lot about leadership and had a chance to really exercise that. After retiring from the Navy, I used the post 9/11 GI Bill to continue my education and earn a PhD in business. I also have a master's of business administration and an undergraduate degree in aeronautics. 2 years ago, I never considered running for office, but I was the only person who lived in this district that was willing to run for office 2 years ago. Since then, I've met so many people, white collar, blue collar, hardworking people that deserve someone to represent them, that understands how to do the research necessary to pass Missouri legislature, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you. Next question. Kenneth Jameson will start. What 3 issues would you make your top priorities in the legislature?
Yes, it's a great question. I'm a kitchen table issues kind of guy. jobs, wages, the economy, healthcare. Those are the primary issues I'm focused on. A major issue right now, and it's on the ballot in November, is reproductive freedom. I'm a strong advocate for women's right to control their own bodies. And education, strong public education supporter. Again, as stated in my introduction, Meadowbrook Elementary School, Antioch Middle School, and Oak Park High School, and then public state schools for college and law school. So those are the issues I'll be laser-like focused on down in Jeff City.
Gloria Young, next question. What 3 issues would you make your top priorities in the legislature?
I will have to echo Ken's comments about reproductive freedom, but extend it a little bit further to sort of bodily autonomy in general, because I feel like there are a lot of issues about that are covered under bodily autonomy that extend a little bit further than reproductive freedom. But obviously that is going to be top of mind for the majority of voters, being that it is on the ballot right now. But I as a second issue, I think the issue of jobs, and not just the availability of employment, but the availability of jobs that pay living wages and have benefits that people can utilize to provide for their families. And then again, for my third issue, education, I think, is something that we need to put a lot more focus on, and in particular, the funding that we have for education, and also the support for our educators and for all of the people who are involved in the educational process. Need more support, and they need more investment and time from the legislature than they have properly been receiving.
Thank you. Shirley Mata, what 3 issues will you make your top priorities in the legislature? Are you there, Shirley? Well, let's move on to Bill Allen. What 3 issues would you make your top priorities in the legislature?
Sure. I think the top 3 most important issues for District 17 starts with the economy. I'm proud to be on the Economic Development Committee, and have done a lot of work for the Kansas City businesses to expand and enhance what we have. I'm also proud to be endorsed by the Kansas City Business PAC, and my MBA in this area brings a lot of power to understand how businesses grow, not just demand that they spend more, but to understand how they can and how we can invest in our local economy. Second is security and safety in neighborhoods. I'm proud to have the endorsement of the Missouri Fraternal Order of Police, the only candidate here to do so, and working together with Sheriff Will Aiken. I think there's a great deal we can do to ensure our neighborhood safety and security. And finally, to fairly and evenly represent all of the voters in District 17. We're fairly evenly split between Democrats and Republicans, with a growing number of independent voters who really care about candidate quality and ballot issues. And so those are the 3 most important things in my mind: are the economy, safety and security of our neighborhoods, and fairly and evenly representing all of the people in District 17.
Thank you, Shirley. We'd like to ask you the question, what 3 issues will you make as your top priorities in the legislature?
Sorry, we lost the signal. Childcare, and because there's not enough of it, and when people can find it, sometimes it's not affordable. And good jobs, good paying jobs in this district, because jobs have been coming in, and strong schools. We have to make our schools stronger, more money, and support our teachers.
Okay, we're going to start with you again, Shirley. And the
Okay.
next question is, in 2018, more than 67% of voters across the state rejected the so-called right to work, quote unquote. Would you uphold the will of the voters and oppose any legislation that would attempt to pass the right to work, quote unquote, again in Missouri?
Absolutely. Right to work is a fallacy. we have a right to work anywhere. Right to work just weakens our safety standards, and it weakens our unions. And I am union. I believe in having union jobs because it helps raise the pay of workers around the state.
Bill Allen?
Well, I want to say all workers are important. Union workers are important. Non-union workers are important. All of the hardworking people in the district are critical to its success. To be very specific, I absolutely oppose any right to work initiatives. I think that my own party has made some mistakes in that area, but I think that like a lot of folks, we've learned from those lessons, and we know better than that now. Unions are critically important. The benefits and negotiated bargaining power of unions is an incredibly important component of our economy, especially locally. So I would oppose right to work, any of those initiatives, completely support all of the other union rights.
Thank you. Kenneth, you know the question?
Same answers, yes. Oppose right to work, a strong supporter of the unions. The unions built the middle class in this country, and they deserve our gratitude. We shouldn't be robbing them of their piggy bank and hurting them in their pocketbook. As an attorney, I've probably represented union members from almost every single union in this area. And I encourage them to vote their pocketbook. And when I talk to them about the issues that impact them and their job and their wages and their health care and the ability to support their family, the vast majority of them in unison oppose right to work. And we should support them.
Gloria Young, you know the question? You want me to repeat it?
No, that's all right. I will absolutely uphold the will of the voters in this because the voters have already made their voices heard. Right to work is not the will of the people. It has been roundly rejected, and it is not the right choice for Missouri or for workers. We have constitutional guarantees both upon our right to organize and to collectively bargain, and studies have shown that fatalities in the workplace are significantly higher in instances where there is not union representation, and health and safety of workers is, in addition to pay, is probably the leading benefit of the unions because they require that employers do have safer work environments and follow safety standards. Compliance with OSHA standards is significantly higher in workplaces that have unions.
Thank you. Kenneth Jameson, next question. Do you support Amendment 3, the right to reproductive freedom initiatives? And will you commit to upholding the will of the voters if it passes?
Strong supporter of a woman's reproductive freedom. The government has no business in our doctor's office. The government and politicians have no business what we do in our bedroom. And the government has no business controlling our bodies. So I believe wholeheartedly in the woman's in reproductive freedom. And should it pass, I'll definitely uphold the will of the voters.
Thank you. Gloria Young, same question. Do you support Amendment 3?
Yes, I strongly support Amendment 3, and I absolutely will uphold the will of the voters when they vote to affirm a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. We should no more be making decisions about a woman's body in that capacity than we should be making requirements of people to make bone marrow or organ donations against their will.
Thank you. Shirley Mata, same question.
I am pro-choice. I believe in a woman's right to choose. I do not believe our government belongs in our doctor's offices. I don't believe they should have any business telling us whether we can have birth control or not. And how do we have any freedoms if we don't have bodily autonomy?
Thank you. Bill Allen, do you support Amendment 3?
Amendment 3, I believe, is exactly where it belongs, on the ballot for the voters to make the decision. And to be very clear, no matter what the results of this election are, I'm glad that the voters are going to make this decision. Not only will I respect the right of the voters, but I will fight like heck to make sure that everybody in the legislature does exactly the same thing. This is too important of an issue. And the last person in the world that should be making a decision about a woman's body is an old white man like me. So I think Amendment 3 will take care of itself at the ballot box. And I believe it will pass.
Thank you. Next question. Missouri has the 5th highest gun death rate in the country, according to a recent article in the Kansas City Star. More than half of these deaths are suicides. As a member of the legislature, what gun laws would you support? We'll start with Gloria Young.
I support a lot, many of the common sense suggestions that have been established through Moms Demand Action and Every Town for Gun Safety that deal with the way that firearms should be stored, and ongoing improvements in requirements from gun manufacturers that provide more safety measures on the weapons themselves in terms of locks and the actual accessibility of the weapon itself. Like if a child or someone who is not the owner happens to get a hold of that item, I support very basic measures that we can employ to keep people safer from these weapons. But I also support investing in our communities to make them safer. There is a significant correlation between housing and food insecurity and riskier behavior and even attempts at suicide. And
thank you. Kenneth Jameson. Same question. As a member of the legislature, what gun laws would you support?
Yeah, I think we need to be laser-like focused on enforcement right now. I'd say in the past 18 months, I've been appointed to represent 2 juveniles, both of whom committed gun-related deaths. One teenager, and again, this is a teenager, effectively purchased black market guns from an app on his cell phone. And he did not know how to handle the weapon. And unfortunately, a bullet went off and it struck a blood relative of his who unfortunately passed away. And that was just one. And then there's a second case, another teenager who yet again purchased a black market firearm from an app on his phone and caused a gun-related death because he did not know how to handle the weapon. And that's just me as one attorney in the past 18 months. That is absurd. That is insane. So we need to focus on enforcement right now. And there is almost a genocide in every single downtown, in every single major city of gun-related deaths caused by black market guns. We need to be focused on that.
Thank you. Shirley Mata, as a member of the legislature, what gun laws would you support?
Well, I would support if people are found to be risk to themselves or to others, probably due to mental illness, by a court, that we would be able to have the police officers take their guns temporarily until they're no longer deemed a threat to themselves or others. That's one. And most of that is domestic violence, I would assume.
Thank you. Bill Allen, same question. As a member of the legislature, what gun laws would you support?
Well, the good news in here for me is that we don't have to just guess about what I would do, but we know for a fact some of the actions and the votes that I've taken. I was the only Republican to vote against the party on a child enforcement gun issue, and I was proud to do that because it was the right thing to do for the district. I believe that we have to stop not listening to each other as Democrats and Republicans. We have to sit down and agree on some common sense measures. And one of the things that I think we can agree on, for example, is a requirement to report all lost and stolen guns. And Ken, my hat's off to you. I really agree with you on a lot of this on the enforcement side. There's a lot more that we can do with enforcement. There's a lot we can do. We require folks to report their lost or stolen guns that wind up on the black market and to reduce that environment. And I also think that, especially in Missouri, we really have to do a lot of groundwork to get over the idea that just because it's okay for some youth to have a gun in the country, to go hunting for legitimate purposes, it's different in the cities, it's different in the suburbs. And I think we have to find some common sense solutions to those, again, by listening to each other and working across the aisle for real solutions, not just sound bites.
Thank you, Bill. Next question. And this is going to start with Gloria Young again. Missouri is one of 26 states which allows citizens to amend the Constitution by initiative petition. Proponents of a measure must gather a sufficient number of signatures before a measure can be placed on the ballot. Currently, an initiative petition will pass with a simple majority vote. Efforts in the legislature to raise the threshold fell short this year. Would you support making it more difficult to change the Constitution through our existing petition process? Why and why not? Gloria?
I do not support making it more difficult to amend the Constitution. The process for amending the Constitution has worked well in the past, and it has been utilized fully by the citizenry to do things like reject right to work, which was resoundingly rejected and has been for the absolute betterment of working people in our state. And I believe that holding a higher standard for a petition to pass into legislation than is required for the General Assembly does not make sense. If we assume that the General Assembly is only required a basic majority in order to pass the legislation, then that the same, I think, requirement of the citizenry is sufficient. And it's actually even more, even with the process as it is, because citizens are required to gather first the number of signatures and undergo a very long process in order to offer anything in the way of a change to the Constitution. People work very hard to change things that are very problematic for the state, and it should not be even more difficult for citizens to make their voices heard.
Thank you. Shirley Mata, would you support making it more difficult to change the Constitution through our existing petition process? Why or why not?
I would not support making it more difficult because, as Gloria just said, thanks to the petition the way it is, our voices were heard for right to work, and hopefully with the for women in abortion right now, hopefully it's going to be the same. Had it been more difficult, we may not have made it to, and this is about the voters. And to make it more difficult, we would silence their voice, and I don't agree with that.
Thank you. Bill Allen, you know the
Well,
question?
I want to make clear there's two sides to this that we're talking about. The first, on an initiative petition initiative, is the statutory requirement. And we all agree, and there's been absolutely no movement from anybody in the legislature to change the statutory requirement for initiative petition. What has been up for debate is whether or not a constitutional change should require a higher threshold. To understand this in a bigger perspective, though, I think it's critical to take one step back and talk a little bit about the 26 states that do have initiative petitions. From the perspective of lobbyists, those are 26 states that are for sale. In the case of Missouri, never once has the majority of funding for an initiative petition come from the state of Missouri. All of the money, the majority of the money anyway, for all of our initiative petitions in the last 50 years, both with Democrats and Republicans, has come from out of state to change our initiative petition, to change our Constitution. In the last 5 years alone, the number of pages that have been added to the Constitution exceed 100 pages. That is a tremendous amount of justice that we have to work through. It will take between 5 and 20 years to work out all of the cases on that. I don't know what the answer is. I think that's another decision for the people to make. And I think politicians should stay out of this one. But I just want to make clear that statutory versus constitutional changes, there's a legitimate debate to be had.
Kenneth Jameson, what do you say?
Yeah, I don't think we should make it harder for the people's voice to be heard. Sometimes the politicians and lobbyists engage in gridlock down in Jeff City, not blaming either side, left or right. And sometimes due to that gridlock, the people are drowned out and the people's voice becomes silent. So they need a mechanism in place to tell the people, the politicians and lobbyists down in Jeff City, we want our voice heard. So we beat down right to work, and we supported union members by doing that in 2018. We increased the minimum wage, and this year, I believe we're going to pass reproductive freedom via the statewide ballot measure process. So yeah, any opportunity to drown out the people's voice, I'm against that.
Thank you, Kenneth. There are 6 ballot measures on the November 5th ballot, 3 sponsored by citizens and 2 by the legislature. The next 4 questions concern these amendments. And the 7th question is going to start with Gloria Young. In 1992, riverboat gambling was approved by Missouri voters partly because tax monies would go to support schools. We now know it is instead of state funds rather than in addition to state funds. What's your comment, Gloria?
I think that we run a very real risk of the exact same thing happening in this instance, where it will be a replacement of funding instead of additional funds, which our schools absolutely need right now. And at this point, we have no guarantees that any money will actually be used for the improvement of schools, and that the estimations for revenues are not terribly impressive when you take into account the very low taxation that whatever it is, the company that's going to be running the sports betting, the very low taxation for them. And also they have to prepay for a number of services related to the addictions and the issues that develop as a result of people having greater ease of access to what is frankly a very addicting activity. And without any guarantees on the money actually being sent to where it is supposed to, where they are telling us that it is going, I'm a little leery of supporting such an effort. But again, I support the will of the voters, and if people want to have sports betting, then they should have that, but not because it's going to support our schools, because that is not what's going to happen.
Thank you. Kenneth Jameson, what you say?
Yeah, I'm not a gambler myself. I mean, the most I gamble, I guess I do fantasy football, and each person does in the fantasy football league puts up $100. I don't know if that's gambling per se, but no, I'm not a gambler, but knocking on doors in the district, I've knocked on thousands of doors, and a lot of people want this passed. They want legalized sports gambling here in the state of Missouri. I believe 38 states and the District of Columbia have passed legalized gambling, sports gambling in their jurisdictions. And I think we need to do it here too, to compete with our competitors, including Kansas. Kansas passed it and they're collecting revenue. So to compete with our peers, I think this needs to pass.
Thank you, Kenneth. Shirley Mata, what's your response?
I plan to vote for it. I hope the money goes to the schools and not instead of, but in conjunction with, but the money that we can make in the state. And like Ken said, I'm hearing on the doors that this district would like to have this pass.
Okay. Bill Allen, what do you respond?
Well, we learned a lot of lessons, I think, from the 1992 riverboat scenario. What we learned more than anything else is the same thing that we've learned at the national level with Social Security, and that's the politicians don't keep their promises, do they? We were promised that Social Security would be a lockbox that nobody would touch. Turns out every president, Democrat and Republican, and every Congress has touched it too. That's the same thing that happened to riverboat. We can't have it both ways, though, to be clear. We want to allow our citizens to have initiatives on the ballot, then we have to support the initiatives and we have to support the will of the people. That part I agree with everybody on. And we're coming up now on 60,000 doors. And I believe in 60,000 conversations around the district, the majority of folks actually want this to pass.
Next question, we're going to start with Kenneth Jameson. Amendment 6 would impose a $3 fee in every circuit court criminal case, which would go towards funding retirement benefits for sheriffs and other court personnel. In 2021, the Supreme Court rejected this approach as unconstitutional, saying that those fees are not reasonably related to the administration of justice. What's your position on Amendment 6, Kenneth?
Yeah, I'm with the Missouri Supreme Court, who decided this, I believe, unanimously back in 2021. It's not related to the administrative justice, and there's a very distinct possibility. I'm not saying it's guaranteed to happen, but there's a great potential. There could be a perverse set of incentives. So the more arrests and the more criminal charges, the greater contribution to the fund. So I think that could lead to a potential conflict of interest. So no, I do not support this amendment, no.
Shirley Mata?
I honestly know nothing about this amendment. I've read it. And Kenneth, I trust him because he's in the court system, right? I'm not, so I can't even answer to this one.
Thank you. Gloria Young?
I agree with both the Supreme Court decision and the point made by Mr. Jameson that that those fees are not directly related to the administration of justice and could create a serious potential for conflict of interest. And it again departs from the main issue, which is our state is not adequately funding the pensions for our state employees. And if we want to prioritize the health and well-being and the retirement of our state employees, then we need to do that without creating incentives for criminalizing even more of our citizenry.
Bill Allen, it's your time.
Well, I agree with most of what's been said, actually. This is on the ballot. We're going to support whatever the people decide it's going to be. But as a legislature, we don't often get to take a pass on the issues of the state. We have to make hard decisions, whether we know a lot about it or don't know a lot about it. I mean, that's what research is all about. In this particular case, I think there's a strong chance that we're sort of barking up the wrong tree, that we're using folks that participate in the court system to fund, sort of like Ken said, we're funding it sort of the opposite way. We're having the criminals pay for the retirement of the law enforcement. I'm not sure that's the best idea, but I can't sit here and say that I'm for initiative petitions and for all the changes without saying that whatever the people decide is how we're going to proceed.
Thanks, Bill. Shirley Mata, we're going to start with you on the next one. Official ballot title. Shall the Missouri Constitution be amended to provide that the administration of justice should include the levying of costs and fees to support salaries and benefits for certain current and former law enforcement personnel? State and local governmental entities estimate an unknown fiscal impact. Okay, I'm now going to the question. Shirley, the question on Amendment 7, also proposed by the legislature, and is a two-parter. It would forbid ranked choice voting, which is essentially a means of having an instant turnoff in elections to which there are multiple candidates. It also states that only U.S. citizens would be allowed to vote, which is already the law in every state, including Missouri. What is your position on Amendment 7?
I am voting no on Amendment 7.
Thank you. Gloria? What is your position?
I believe that the ranked choice voting has the advantage of discouraging extremism and some of the more inflammatory and I guess, like personal attacks on behalf of some of the politicians, because it creates a higher incentive for people who conduct themselves a little bit more civilly in their discourse and in their campaigning. I also think that passing a state law to prohibit any political jurisdiction from implementing a voting system that they feel may have advantages for their particular county or city does a disservice to the people of Missouri for who may have discrete local needs that may be better represented through this form of voting. And with relation to the lead-in to the question, I think that it is deliberately misleading, because when you it's referred to often as ballot candy, and it is the placement of items that are unrelated to the function of the legislation itself at the top, in order to mislead people into thinking that they are voting that. Because unfortunately, some people read the first part and then make a decision.
Thank you. Kenneth Jameson, your response.
Going back to that last question about the court fees and the pension fund and all that, don't give great weight to my opinion just because I'm an attorney. I'm probably the worst attorney in Clay County, so my judgment's probably a little bad on this issue. So don't trust me just because I'm an attorney. No, I'm kidding. On this issue, I like the idea of ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting increases the chances of more moderate candidates being elected and representing us. Under our current system, unfortunately, and no blame on either side, on both sides, sometimes candidates have the incentive and motivation to appeal to the far left of their party or the far right of their party. And that's unfortunate, because then they get down there and you got people who represent the 10% of the far left of the party and the 10% of the far right of their party, and the 80% of the middle, where our voices are silent. And Nixon wasn't the greatest, but he had a good saying, the silent majority. So sometimes I think the silent majority is being drowned out down there. So I like the idea of ranked choice voting. It increases the chances of more moderate candidates being elected and representing us down in Jeff City. I do have concern if this passes. One, ranked choice voting can be confusing to voters. I mean, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I went to public school, but even sometimes it took me a minute to get used to it. And also, one concern is if it passes, we may need to pay for new voting machines, which could be expensive.
Thank you. Bill Allen?
Well, here's what I think is important. Let's ask the states who have adopted ranked choice voting. And the state closest to the likes of Missouri is a state called Alaska. They adopted ranked choice voting and less than 3 years ago, and they cannot wait to get that off the ballot. The citizens of Alaska are horrified that the fourth choice is who was voted in. I like to stick to bipartisan topics. I like to stick to things that Democrats and Republicans can both agree on in order to move it forward. I don't know a single Republican in the entire chamber of the Senate or the House that is for ranked choice voting. It's 100% on the Democrat side. And I think until we have more common ground, ranked choice voting needs to stay where it is, and that's away from Missouri.
Thank you, Bill. Official ballot title. Shall the Missouri Constitution be amended to make the Constitution consistent with state law by only allowing citizens of the United States to vote? Prohibit the ranking of candidates by limiting voters to a single vote per candidate or issue? Or require the plurality winner of a political party primary to be the single candidate at a general election? State and local governmental entities estimate no cost or savings. Next question. And we're going to start with Shirley. Public education has to provide public funding services without discrimination. Why should private schools receive public funds when they can discriminate against students on the basis of disabilities, sexual orientation, religion, race, and student history of misconduct? What is your position on school vouchers and charter schools?
I do not believe that private schools should be receiving tax dollars. Our public schools need to be funded. These taxes were taken for our public schools and we need to use it for them and fund them. The charter schools, I need to know more about them, but if it's taking money from our public schools, no.
Thank you. Gloria?
Thank you. The voucher system depletes from our public school system, which is already in need of more support and not less. And I absolutely do not support any tax money being sent to schools that employ any form of discrimination. And although people have different perspectives on what types of education they would like for their children, the entirety of society benefits when we have a strong and functioning educational system provided for all. And that's why that is written into the Constitution of our state. And that is explained in the description of our state constitution, where it talks about how the free education for the betterment of Missouri is provided by the state, and that we should not depart from that and continue to fully fund our public schools and to provide, I think, probably more funding and support for our public schools rather than less.
Thank you. Kenneth?
Yeah, lifelong student of public schools, strong supporter of public schools. I believe public tax dollars should stay in public schools. Public schools are currently under attack. I think it's all hands on deck to support our public schools and our educators, our teachers, our students, our administrators, staff, our cafeteria workers, our janitors, everybody who works for the schools. I served during the summer in Kenya. I was a teacher down in Kenya. During college, I was a teacher down in Kenya. Teaching all subjects except Swahili to Kenyan middle school kids and elementary school kids. That was just for one summer, and it was very difficult. Probably more difficult than serving in the Marine Corps. So I empathize with the sacrifice our teachers make, and they need our support.
Okay, Bill.
Well, fortunately, no public tax dollars are going toward this so-called voucher program. I think the program we're talking about is called Mo Scholars. And if that's the program we're talking about, that's private investment money that funds those scholarships. And I see nothing at all wrong with that. I also want to make a clear statement that the idea that we're choosing between public schools and private schools is just a false choice. Nobody wants that. As far as I know, and I'll just speak for myself, I absolutely think public schools are one of the most important things we have in the United States. We've got to fully fund our schools. We need to be more creative in how we fund our teachers. That's why I voted for the largest increase in public school funding in the history of Missouri. And I'm proud of voting on that bill. I think there's some folks here that would have voted no on the millions and millions of dollars going to Missouri on Senate Bill 727. But to be clear, tax dollars is not going there. Now with charter schools, that does take some of the school funding, but that's put in place by citizens. I would never say to citizens of a city, no, you can't have a charter school because I feel differently about it. I just think in imparting our own feelings on what the citizens want is just not good government. So with that in mind, I think it's perfectly acceptable that some students need some school choice options. Those parents are desperately wanting them. We can do both. We can support those schools that need those students that need some choice, and we can fully fund our private schools. Our public schools, and that's exactly what we did in Senate Bill 727 this last year.
Thank you. Next question, and start with Shirley Mott. According to 2021 data, Missouri has about 250,000 foreign-born residents, 80% of which are naturalized citizens and are legal permanent residents. That leaves about 50,000 immigrants who are here on temporary visas and are undocumented. What is your position on immigrants in Missouri?
If they're here, and we know they're here, then they're here legally. So personally, I don't have a problem with having immigrants here. We have businesses that use them, they're working, they're paying for where they live, and they pay taxes. That's what we all do, right? So I personally don't have an issue with it. Now, if we're having them come in illegally, we do need to watch the border. We do need to make sure we strengthen it. We do need to make sure that we're taking care of what needs to be taken care of so that we're protected. But if they're already here, we know they're here, they're documented, they were born here. That's what America is.
Thank you, Shirley. Kenneth Jameson, your position.
Yeah, professionally and politically, very conservative senator from Oklahoma, James Inhofe, drafted a immigration bill with bipartisan support. I would support that bill on a national level, but here on a local level, personally, I think one of the greatest traits our public servants should endeavor to have is empathy. You know, like I said, during the summer during college, I was a teacher down in Kenya. And then another summer during college, I spent a summer down in a Haitian refugee camp, building houses in Haitian refugee camps. Those were life-altering, life-changing experiences for me. They instilled in me a great sense of empathy. That's had a profound impact on my entire life. I probably wouldn't be here without those experiences. And I would hope all my colleagues down in Jeff City would try to attempt to exercise a sense of empathy. People down there are born and raised into some terrible conditions that we may not be able to imagine. And they're looking out to provide for their own families. If they're here legally, they're paying taxes and working, and we should support them. Yes, the immigration system is broken on a national level, but I'm here focused on District 15. I'm focused on Gladstone, Kansas City North, and Oakview, and the people over here.
Thank you, Kenneth. Gloria Young.
The majority of Americans are immigrants or the descendants of immigrants. Many of us very recently. Immigrants still make up a significant portion, like new incoming immigrants make up a significant portion of our very necessary workforce. And migrant labor is critical to many of the farm needs and a lot of the labor needs. And we will continue to have ongoing needs for immigrant labor. And while I agree that we need reforms in our policies for the process of legal immigration, I think that exercising something in the way of as Mr. Jameson said, empathy for our fellow human beings and attempting to moderate our approach to be a little more humane and a little less focused on criminalizing and vilifying people for coming to a different country. And I think we need to be very careful about our approach and the lens we use when we look at immigrant populations and whether or not we are characterizing entire groups of people as suspect or as problematic when just looking at a person, we probably really have no idea what their particular background is. And
Thank you, Gloria. Bill Allen.
Well, first I want to say, Ms. Collins, congratulations to you. You have better data than Homeland Security does. And I can tell you that for a fact because I'm on the special committee of illegal immigrant crime.
I just want to interrupt you to let you know the League of Women Voters provided me that information.
That's we've been working with them on trying to get numbers for Missouri, and those are numbers that seem very elusive even to the national level of our government. Look, my wife's mother's from El Salvador. We all know that America is a country of immigrants. This is not new. We've been doing this for a long, long time. What is new is what the Biden administration did to the border 3.5 years ago when they opened it wide up and caused an awful lot of problems. Really, we're talking about this because the United States government, and we're letting them off the hook, is not dealing with this in the way they should. We should be holding our congressmen accountable. We should be holding our senators accountable. This is a national problem, not a Missouri problem.
Thank you, Bill. Before we get to our 2-minute closing statements, here is the last question from me. What is one question you wish I had asked, and how would you answer it? We'll start with Gloria. Are you muted?
I'm sorry, I was having a problem with my mute button. I have it now. I think I would have liked to see perhaps a question about what sort of legislation do we have in mind, like personally, in terms of a bill that we would like to present, or an idea for a piece of legislation that we think would have benefit for the people of Missouri.
How would you answer it?
I would answer it to say that I think that if that we could pursue an option for energy sovereignty for our schools in order to address some of our ongoing funding issues.
Thank you. Shirley, I'll go to you. What do you think? You got the last question from me. It sounds like you're ready. Go right ahead.
I don't have a question I wished you to ask. I think we covered quite a bit.
Thank you, Shirley. Kenneth Jameson? Which is one question you wish I had asked, and how would you answer it?
Oh, I don't know if I wish you asked, but I was, sometimes you go to these things and they say, hey, what can you say something negative about your opponent, or can you badmouth your opponent? And if I was asked that, I couldn't. So, my Republican opponent, I've met him. He's a great gentleman. So if he wins, I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. If you're down
That
there,
is not a League of Women style. Okay. Bill Allen.
The one thing I wish you would have asked is, will you accept the will of the voters after this election? I was a little bit taken aback in 2016. The League of Women Voters president said they didn't accept the results of that election. I don't think that's okay. I think that we have to accept the results of our elections, the will of the people, whether we like it or we don't like it, whether it's our person or it's not our person. We need to get behind this divisiveness and look for a future where we agree that election night is election night, and we can all move forward no matter who's elected in whatever position. I can guarantee you, for me, if it's Shirley Maddow, I'm going to call her, I'm going to congratulate her, and I'm going to help do everything I can to make sure she's successful in office.
Thank you, Bill. We welcome the candidates participating in tonight's forum. Candidates, please, I've already done that. We're down to the 7:30 closing remarks. Candidates, it's time for your 2-minute closing remarks. I want to personally thank you for joining us. And in addition, we'd like to ask that you share the League's website with voters and encourage all citizens to show up on each election day and exercise their right to vote. Now, for our candidates' closing remarks. And we'll start with Gloria Young.
And I'd like to again thank the League of Women Voters for inviting us all here tonight to give the viewers and the voters a little bit of a perspective into their candidates. And I would like to thank you for providing such a pleasant and civil forum. My background is basically that I have been a lifelong volunteer, and I've volunteered for shelters and helped people experiencing food insecurity, housing insecurity, organized and supported community cleanup events. And I love volunteering, and it gives me an opportunity to grow as a person and connect to my community. And now I'm looking for an opportunity to connect even more deeply to my community, and to use the connections, all of the people the conversations that I've had, and the issues that people have discussed with me to inform policy, and to utilize research to try to find some answers, and to reach out to the people other people in the legislature to find some some common answers to address so many of the issues that the people of Missouri are experiencing that I know we have answers for, and I know that we can find them, that we can work together to build a Missouri that is good for all of us.
Thank you, Ms. Gloria. Shirley Mata. What's your closing statement?
I have fosters that are making noise, so I'm having to keep it. Foster dogs.
We understand.
I want to thank you guys very much for this forum and for giving us this platform to let the voters come and research us and decide who they want to vote for. Since the voters will be checking it out, I want to thank them for welcoming me at their doors and having the conversations that we've had. And I'm just looking forward to Election Day. And I'm ready to keep getting the work done so we can get the 5th here.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you.
Kenneth Jameson.
Yeah, I just want to thank the league for hosting this and the people watching, inviting us into their homes, the other candidates. Even though he's a Navy boy, we Marines don't like Navy boys. Thank you, Bill, for your service. I think I heard your rank. I think you're higher ranked than me. So if I see you down in Jeff City, you know, I'll call attention on deck when you enter the room. But no, I've devoted my life to service, Haitian refugee camps, Kenyan, teaching down in Kenya, service in the Marine Corps, serving in Afghanistan. This is my home district. I was raised here. I came back home, and the district's different, in some ways good, some ways bad. And I think we can move this district forward and have a better district and a better Missouri. I got a young family I want to raise here now, and I want to continue my devotion to service down in Jeff City and serving the people of the 15th down in Jeff City.
Thank you, Kenneth. Bill Allen.
Well, again, thank you, everybody. Appreciate everything. And Shirley, my hat's off to you. I think you're running one heck of a good race, and I appreciate you. If the voters just had to choose between two good people like us, I think they'd be hard pressed. But I want to talk a little bit about qualifications and why I think I'm the right person for the job. You know, my entire life has been dedicated to service. At the age of 18, I entered the military, and I stayed for 27 years of active duty military service. After that, I served for 12 years with at-risk students from the inner urban core of Kansas City and St. Louis. We worked side by side with those students. I taught them in the classroom, a high school classroom, and personally got to see that high school graduates performing at the 4th grade of math can become 12th grade performers in math and English and all the other arts with just a little bit of love and care and attention. And after that, I spent my time in higher education, making sure that the opportunities that I've had available are available to everybody. Look, this district is about half Democrat and it's about half Republican. The leader of this district has to understand that union members are critically important, but so are non-union members. There are far more non-union members than there are union members in our district. There are women, there are elderly, there are retired, there are white collars that are working 40 and 50 and 70 and 80 hours a week. There are blue collars that have different needs. There are $11 million homes and there are $11,000 homes. The leader of this district needs to understand all of those perspectives and be able to represent all of them fairly and evenly, not just special interest, but everybody in the district. And I thank you for the time today. And again, for all the candidates that took the time, thank you. And for our viewers, God bless you all.
Thank you, Bill. I want to thank all of the candidates. You have been great in your responses this afternoon and evening. And the League of Women Voters has provided me a wonderful staff person named Cheryl Barnes, and I want to thank her. I'm now going to turn things back over to Anitra Steele. Anitra?
Thank you, audience, for your interest in the November election. A recording of this forum will be available on the League's website, lwvkc.org. Please take a moment to share our forums via your Facebook, Nextdoor, and other social media channels. And remember, for voting and candidate information, visit lwvkc.org and votefor1.org. Thank you. Early voting is starting very soon. Thank you again, and good night.
Night.
Stop the recording.
I believe someone took over the host. If they can please make me a host so I can stop the recording. I tried to.